And the crime of the people of Palestine is that they refused to resist this onslaught. They refused to stop their fight for liberation of their land, liberation of their nation. And that's even though Israel has been able to kill so many children, so many babies, it has not been able to kill the courageous and heroic resistance of the Palestinian people. So, uh, and that is the reason why it still continues in its. It shows their frustration and desperation that they are not able to annihilate this resistance. They are not able to completely eliminate this resistance, despite the fact that they have killed the top leadership of Hamas and Hezbollah, despite the fact of carrying out this one of the worst genocide of the century. They have not been able to eliminate this resistance, and that is the reason for their frustration and their desperation, and that is also the reason why they are now expanding the war. Now we've recently seen that the war is expanded, and Israel attacked Iran, followed by US attacking nuclear facilities of Iran, and then for now there is some ceasefire, but in no way this is going to be a permanent peace, and this entire region is going to be in turmoil for some time to come. And often we feel helpless by seeing these kinds of news of children dying of starvation, of so many babies being killed in bombings and all, and this kind of genocide that is going on. And sometimes we also feel that it is unfathomable, or it how can we actually understand, how can a human society do this to children, to so many innocent civilians. But uh, I think that if we have to really uh, do something about it, we must first try to understand the reason behind what is going on in Palestine, and what has been the history behind this issue. And only in that case we will be able to take out some operative part, and we'll be able to contribute something to end this kind of genocide, to end this kind of settler colonial occupation of the Palestinian people. So, in my talk, I'm just briefly going to talk about the nature of this occupation, the nature of the settler colonial project, and how it is linked with the imperialist system. Because I believe without understanding this linkage between imperialism and the settler colonial project of Israel, we cannot understand whatever is going on in Gaza right now. So that's very important to understand. So, uh, as Bertolt Brecht said, in a different context, he said in the context of fascism, but it is true in the case of uh, whatever is going on in Gaza right now, that barbarism doesn't come from barbarism, but it comes from those business deals that necessitates this kind of barbarism. So there is certain uh, material interest behind whatever is going on. It's not just the few individuals and their brainchild. This genocide is going on. It's basically it's the interest of the entire class of people, and that's what we need to understand. What is that material interest? Who is getting benefited from this genocide, and who is uh, ordering this kind of genocide? So basically, as Brecht said, it is these business deals which are the really source of these kinds of barbarity. So, in case of Palestine, it is the location of Palestine in being part of that Middle East region, which is source of hydrocarbon resources, oil and natural gas. That is the reason why this kind of imperialist intervention has been happening not just now, but right from the beginning of this conflict. And the very origin, if we trace the origin of this settler colonial project of Israel, we'll know that right from its beginning, this was supported by imperialist powers. Uh, Earlier in 20th century, in the early part of the 20th century, it was the British imperialist who were the biggest imperialist powers at that time, who supported this imperialist, this kind of settler colonial project. And when the British imperialists decided to support this settler colonial project of Israel, they uh, they when they, for example, in 1917, in the famous Balfour Declaration, when they agreed to have a homeland for Jewish people in that Palestine land, uh, that period, in fact, broadly coincides with the discovery of oil in that region. And that is when the significance of that entire region of Middle East uh, uh, substantially increased, because oil is one of the most strategic commodity in a capitalist system. And that is the main reason, that material reason why the British imperialists decided to support this project. So, uh, in fact, even earlier, when this ideology of Zionism came into existence, the founders of this ideology, people like Theodore Herzl, they also made no bone about the fact that their project is that of it's a colonial project. It's in no way kind of any emancipatory project. It is a colonial project, and they were trying to convince different imperialist powers that we will prove to be superior colonial powers right from the beginning. And when this British imperialist powers decided to support this project in their own material interest, and especially after the First World War, when the Palestine came under the control of Britain, it was known as Palestine Mandate. At that time, they consciously promoted systematically the migration of Jewish people in Palestine. The migration of Jewish people had started even before that, spontaneously, but in a conscious and very systematic manner. British imperialists supported this migration, and of course, uh, the people of Palestine had been living there for centuries. Even though the Zionist leaders they spread this myth that Palestine is the land without people, and we are people without land. The reality is that it was Palestine was a flourishing civilization, and they had their own culture, their own economy. Obviously, when this settlement, new settlers had been arriving, which were promoted by the rulers of that time, the British imperialists. They had clashed with the local uh, population, and that's what led to uh, a beginning of the Palestinian resistance. In fact, in the decades of 1930s. So, so basically, as Comrade Suresh said in the beginning, that uh, the origin of this dispute, this dispute does not start on October 7, 2023. It dates back to early periods of 20th century. So, and Israel as a state could not have come into existence without the support of British imperialist powers. In 1948, when this state of Israel came into existence, uh, it it was not possible without the support of British imperialist powers, because there was no nation, or there was no country called Israel on that land. It was Palestine, and even the UN partition plan of 1947 was that way unjust, because it it legitimized the existence of this state of Israel. So that is very clear that right from the beginning, it's this project of settler colonial project of Israel is being supported by the imperialist power. And after the Second World War, when the US became the biggest imperialist power of the world, uh, now in its own interest, it started supporting this project. And that is the reason why still, if Israel is able to do all these genocide, all the kinds of uh, inhuman acts, it is only possible because there is a support of US imperialism. And if the moment US withdraws its support, it cannot carry out these kinds of atrocities. So it is so after the Second World War, when this British imperialist got weakened and the US imperialist got strengthened, uh, basically Israel's occupation of Palestine uh, continued. It continued to expand further. And in 1967 war, that Six-Day War, if Israel managed to secure victory, it was also because of the open support by the US imperialism. And there is a there is a reason behind that, as I explained in the beginning. The need for oil and gas in the modern capitalist societies and capitalist economies ensured that US has to have some kind of hold in that region. And Israel became that kind of military base of US in that area. Recently, uh, when Iran attacked US military base in Doha, it was mentioned that Doha happens to be the biggest military base of US in the Middle East, but that is not very accurate, because the biggest military base happens to be Israel. The entire Israel it acts as a military base of USA, and somebody rightly said that it is the biggest aircraft carrier of US imperialism in the Middle East, because it is the existence of Israel that assures US that it can still intervene in that region. It can topple the regimes in that region. It can establish its dominance in that region. And for that, Israel has been doing, and that is the reason why US continues to provide uh, fund military aid. Billions of dollars of military aid is given by the US imperialism precisely for that region, so that its dominance in that region continues. Its military dominance and its strategic dominance, and its, of course, its economic dominance in that region. And for that, the existence of this settler colonial project of Israel uh, and its continued expansion in that region is very important. So uh, when when we talk about the uh, the Israeli society and the internal contradictions of Israel, and there are reports in the media why Netanyahu has been carrying out this kind of genocide, often it is only the dynamics of Israeli society and the fact that Netanyahu wants to uh, kind of remain in power, because if he goes out of power, then he'll be in jail because there are many corruption cases. So only that aspect is highlight, which definitely is definitely one of the aspects of this overall conflict. But if we don't relate with this imperialist interest in that region, we would not be able to understand what is going on in Gaza, or uh, recently whatever happened in Iran. That also needs to be understood in that context. So it's true that this settler colonial project of Israel is being run by the ruling classes of Israel, these Zionist rulers who are leading that onslaught. But uh, that link with the imperialist system is very crucial in this continued expansion, because and in whatever we are witnessing in the form of a genocide in Gaza is just one aspect of this settler colonial project. In fact, there are many other aspects of the settler colonial project, because even when this genocide was not happening, the settler colonialism of Israel was in place. Uh, in occupied West Bank, the illegal settlements which have been expanding ever since 1967, the apartheid wall which exists in the West Bank, the kind of racial discrimination which Palestinian people face on a day-to-day basis, even when this kind of genocide is not happening, that is all part of the settler colonial project. That we need to understand that this genocide and this murder of children is just one of the most uh, crude form of crude manifestation of the settler colonial project. But that is not all. In fact, there, even when there is some kind of ceasefire, there is some kind of peace in that region, even a temporary peace, this project continues. Even as we speak, there might be so many illegal settlements constructed in the occupied West Bank, so many Palestinians being discriminated in that region. So that we need to understand that this when we are talking about this settler colonial project, it has so many dimensions. The kind of checkpost which exist in the West Bank, the in which the Palestinian people in the West Bank, they have to show their ID cards, and this apartheid wall which separates different villages of Palestine. So these all are different aspects of this kind of settler colonial project. And when we are talking about any kind of resolution to this conflict, we have to take into account all these aspects. And also this aspect which often is not mentioned is that there are lacks of refugees, the Palestinian refugees who are living in different Arab countries and different parts of the world also. So it is much more complex, and Gaza is just the most extreme manifestation of this settler colonial project of Israel. So basically, uh, if we have to talk about Gaza today, we have to situate whatever is happening in this larger context also. Only then we'll be able to understand at the rational plane, as I discussed in the beginning, that it is part of a larger conspiracy, a larger game plan to basically ensure the dominance of US imperialist powers. And and recently we have to understand, in the recent times, there is a certain change in the equations of imperialism. that also needs to be understood if we have to understand whatever is going on currently, because it is uh, in especially in last few decades, last couple of decades, there is a clear decline of the hegemony of US imperialism all over the world, and especially in the Middle East also it can be seen very clearly. Of course, the root of this decline of US imperialism in that region is in the economic decline of US, especially after the 2007-8 global financial crisis, uh, which is being termed as long depression. Uh, the capitalist system has not come out of its crisis, and that economic crisis also is reflected in its military setbacks, strategic setbacks in different parts of the world. Uh, and We can see in last 2 decades, even though US managed to uh, pull down the Saddam Hussein regime in Iraq, it could not basically ensure that pro-US regime uh, comes to power in Iraq. And similarly, in Afghanistan also, it has uh, received a setback. In 2021, again, Taliban government has come to power. And also in Syria, it took very long time for the US imperialist powers finally to topple the Assad regime. And even now, the situation in Syria is in flux. So basically, uh, it is an empire in decline that is very clear, with its economic decline, with its military and strategic setbacks that the US imperialism has received. And in fact, if we go back even uh, in 20th century, in that region, the US has received other setbacks. For example, after 1979, so-called Islamic Revolution, its very important ally in that region, the Shah of Iran, was lost, and that is one of the reasons why it still considers Iran as the axis of evil, and that is one of the reasons why it recently launched an attack on the nuclear establishment also of Iran. So basically, uh, it is an empire in decline, and this this is not able to accept this decline, and it shows its desperation and frustration of US imperialism also. Not just Israel is desperate and frustrated, the fact that the Palestinian people's resistance continues despite all this genocide, despite uh, the elimination of the leadership of Palestinian resistance. The US imperialism is also very desperate, and its desperation is reflected in the personality of Trump, which is the people are terming him as mad, or as a very psychic person. But whatever madness Trump is reflecting, there is a method in that madness, and that is this imperialist system. It is a reflection of the crisis of the imperialist system only. So, and if we further trace back the origin of this decline, uh, if we, for example, in the last 20th century, in 1990s, after the collapse of Soviet Union, there was, for some time, there was some kind of optical illusion being created of the world, as if the world was a kind of unipolar world. There was no rival to US imperialism. Even people like Prabhat Patnaik in India were saying that the inter-imperialist rivalry has ceased to exist, and that Leninist conjuncture is no more there. But as time passed, it proved to be an optical illusion, and by the beginning of the new century, We saw the emergence of Russia and, more importantly, China as the new imperialist pole in that imperialist order. So now, especially in last 2 decades, the magnificent rise of China, not just as a capitalist power, but also as an imperialist power, and the alliance of Russia and China to challenge the US hegemony in different parts of the world, and kind of inter-imperialist rivalry that is going on in different parts of the world is the reason for many of the conflicts in the world. For example, whatever is going on in Ukraine also is the outcome of this inter-imperialist rivalry only. So, so that's the reason we need to understand Gaza in this larger context. That it is the whatever humanitarian crisis, the genocide that is going on, the very crude and vulgar form, the inhuman form, this genocide is taking place in Gaza is nothing but manifestation of the character of this kind of system in which we are living. And in this system, normally people are told that it is democracy, there is equality, liberty, fraternity. And when we are not faced with this kind of genocide, of this kind of war, then we are often told that all is well, and basically there is a progress, there is development going on. But then here comes Gaza, and it uh, it just exposes all the tall claims made by the rulers of the world, those uh, who have talked about liberty, equality, fraternity, the capitalist world. They are the ones uh, who are mainly responsible for whatever is going on in Gaza. So basically, Gaza also acts as a mirror to expose the inhumanity of the imperialist global imperialist system, the global capitalist system in which we are living in. So basically, uh, that is also the reason why we need to situate this in the larger context, and just the imperialist system, not just the imperialist rulers. Uh, Gaza has also exposed the rulers of different parts of the world. In fact, the ruling classes, as I told in the beginning, the Arab rulers who claim to support the Palestinian cause, and people of Arab for years waited their rulers to come forward in support of the Palestinian people. But as the time passes, it becomes more and more clear that most of these rulers are, in fact, doing nothing, and not just doing nothing, they were, in fact, uh, kind of m- trying to make an alliance with US imperialism or Israel in some way. If we remember, before October 7, there was this talk of normalization in with Israel in this entire Arab world. And it is another thing that October 7 uh, kind of uh, it it eventually foiled their design, not just the design of the Arab leaders, but also the US imperialist and the Israeli nexus, because they wanted to present Israel as some kind of very normal state, as a very democratic, the only democratic state according to them in the Middle East region, only secular according to them in the Middle East region. But after that, October 7, uh, this their attempt of normalization, their attempt to whitewash this settler colonial project of his settler colonial nature of Israel uh, stands exposed, and now it is there for the world to see the exact nature of this project and the inhumanity of it. So, so in this process, the entire Arab world, the ruling class of that Arab world, the sheikhs and the shahs of the Arab world have been exposed from the in front of the people of Arab world, and that is also leading to so many uh, so many contradictions and conflicts in that region, and that entire region of Middle East that way uh, is a kind of uh, we can say it's a kind of uh, it's a powder keg that is waiting to be exploded. That region is sitting on the top of a volcano, and there are different types of contradictions that are going on in that region. One, as I discussed, that there is a inter-imperialist rivalry that is going on regarding capturing more and more resources of that region, the hydrocarbon resources, and then there are other resources, rare earth minerals. So all these are leading to more and more competition, and that is leading to more and more violence, and more and more contradictions are getting sharp in that region. So that is one of the contradiction. But then uh, you have the contradictions between the people of Arab world and rulers of the Arab world. That is also sharpening in that process. So as you know, most of these Arab world leaders, um, they are none of them are kind of most of them are monarchs, and they are their worst nightmare is that what if the people of their countries they revolt against their authoritarian rule. So uh, that is the one contradiction that is going on, that is also sharpening. And if we remember 2011-12 Arab Spring, that that was the situation, and that was spreading this kind of anger, mass anger against this authoritarian regime was spreading, and they are still scared that if this kind of uh, anger of people against these rulers spread, then their very existence, their very survival will be endangered. So that is also very important contradiction that is going on as of now. And now in that is there in different parts of the Middle East, but especially in case of Palestine, you have uh, yet another contradiction, that is the contradiction between the this liberation struggle of the Palestinian people and this Zionist state of Israel and its nexus with the US imperialism. That also is getting sharpened, and uh, whatever has happened after October 7, it also reflects that uh, it is uh, this contradiction is also uh, reaching towards some kind of flashpoint, and that also is kind of explains that this settler colonial project of Israel itself uh, is not very sustainable, and its days are also numbered. It's not going to be there for eternity, because uh, it is trying to establish its rule in a region where already there is different types of resistance. In Palestine, the Palestinian people are resisting, and people of other Arab countries are also in solidarity with the resistance of people of Palestine. And of course, now there is a global solidarity movement in support of Palestinian people, even though uh, in terms of military might, Israel and US imperialism might have most advanced weaponry, most advanced fighter jets and iron domes and all. Uh, Yet, it is still not able to ensure that this settler colonial project remains stable in a stable condition, because Netanyahu has been trying to convince the people of Israel that I will make Israeli citizens very safe and secure by eliminating the resistance of the people of Palestine. Yet, that is nowhere close to that aim. So, and in fact, if we see as this war expands in the Middle East, even the citizens of Israel are under attack. For example, recently when Iran launched an attack, there are many Israeli citizens also got killed in that process. And even on October 7, Hamas attack, that also led to many Israeli people got getting killed. So it's not that Israel has been able to assure the Israeli citizens that you are safe and our military might will be able to make you safe and secure. In fact, there is more and more anxiety, there is more and more tension within the Israeli society about whatever is going on in Gaza, whatever is going on in other parts of the Middle East. And uh, they also are aware that this settler colonial project is not going to be uh, everlasting. It is also not going to be eternal. In fact, all these contradictions that are emerging, all these conflicts that are getting sharpening, they are just the signs that its days are numbered. Of course, in history, it one cannot predict that how long this settler colonial project will survive. But one thing is very sure that uh, it is nowhere able to uh, assure uh, any sense of safety or security in that region. In fact, it is exactly in going in the opposite direction. It is not just it is carrying out mass murder, genocide, and not just it is leading to humanitarian crisis. It is also making its own Israeli citizens endangered, and that's the reason many of the Israeli citizens are in the process of leaving that country. Many of them are having dual citizenship. They are uh, preparing to leave this country because they are also not very sure that whether this settler colonial project will survive for a very long time. So, uh, so that means uh, it is not the kind of military might which Israel and US imperialism has, and the kind of genocide it is doing. It is not the sign of their strength. In fact, what they are doing is exactly the opposite. It is the sign of their weakness. It is the sign of uh, their decline of their hegemony in that region. Because if suppose they were able to establish Israel as a very normal state, as they thought before October 7, uh, if they were successful in uh, having normal relations with other Arab countries, and other Arab countries were able to recognize Israel as a very normal state, then their hegemony would be much more in that region, but that they are not able to do that. And it is that frustration and desperation of, because not being able to they are not being able to do that, that it is this violence is increasing. So this cycle of violence is in fact uh, a, a symptom of their weakness, even though in terms of casualties, in terms of the number of deaths of children, we all uh, we all feel disturbed, but and we feel that it is very uh, powerful. Israel and US imperialism is very powerful, and they are able to uh, kill so many people, and they are able to crush this resistance. But if we have this long term view of the reality, we will know that whatever is going on is not in any way any sign of their strength. It is the sign of their weakness. So, as I told, that that entire Middle East region uh, is facing so many contradictions, and uh, the issue of Palestine, it it can lead to a series of mass uprising, not just in Palestine, but also in different parts of Arab world, in that entire Middle East region. So it can spark this issue of Palestine. It can act as a spark that can start the prairie fire. That is the significance of the Palestinian resistance, because even now, despite so much repression, despite so much killing, it continues to inspire the people, not just within Palestine, but across the world, and especially in the Middle East region. And there are people who are supporting them, and there are people who are uh, increasingly getting angry against the rulers of their own country. That's what is leading to so many uh, uh, contradictions in that region, and they can flare up, and they can assume any form in the near future, and that can lead to mass uprising, that can lead to people's revolution in many of these countries. So uh, so that way, basically, that is the other aspect of the reality. On the one hand, we feel so much emotionally disturbed when we see the news of the killings of so many people, so many children. On the other hand, we also, when we try to understand the rational level, when we try to understand in a historical manner, then we also reach to the conclusion that this imperialist system, it might look very powerful. Uh, it still suffers from so many uh, conflicts, so many contradictions within itself, and it is in these contradictions that a kind of optimism for future, for a better future for humanity also exists, that it is not going to be sustainable. This kind of genocide, this kind of mass murder is not going to be forever, and people will rise. Uh, it is just a matter of time that when this this powder keg explodes, and when this spark when this spark starts this prairie fire, it is just a matter of time, and it is just a matter of time that it can take the form of people's uprising in different parts of the country. And uh, as we saw in recent months, basically, this, as the war expanded to Iran, and there was a retaliation of Iran, and now there is a temporary ceasefire. That also shows that it is not the US imperialism is not able to find its way out of the existing quagmire. Basically, it is stuck in a quagmire and doesn't know, and that's what is reflected in the unpredictability of a person like Trump. Basically, it is a signal that it doesn't know the way out. It doesn't know how to restore its hegemony in that region, how to restore its credibility in that region. So basically, uh, that means that it is this imperialist system is not in a very healthy state, and the objective conditions for its eventual overthrow are already being created, and it is itself creating those conditions of its eventual overthrow. So and similarly, the ruling classes all over the world have betrayed uh, of not just US, the European countries, despite the fact that there are so much uh, people's movement going on in solidarity with Palestine in European countries. Still, the rulers of those countries continue to provide military aid, to provide support, even though sometimes they also raise some questions and all, because of the mass pressure from below. But by and large, they still continue to support Israel. So, and that also is one of the reason why uh, this kind of settler colonial project of Israel still goes on. And uh, also the country like India, the post-colonial countries, uh, which themselves were the victims of colonialism, and for even after independence for very long time, there was support to the struggle of the Palestinian people, to their aspiration for national self-determination. Uh, in recent decades, that there is a shift which is witnessed, and uh, that shift, in fact, started with Congress regime itself, Narasimha Rao government's time, when this Israeli state was a kind of legitimized, diplomatic relations were established, and especially in the fascist era in which we are living. Now the relationship between Indian ruling classes and the Israeli Zionist Israel have now strengthened, and there is which is reflected in the increasing bonhomie between Modi and Netanyahu. So, and that also uh, shows in the ideological matter, because the fascist Hindutva fascists are also taking inspiration from the Zionist Israel to basically to carry out their own atrocities here within India, and the kind of, for example, bulldozer Raj which they are trying to establish, they have taken inspiration from Israel only, and the attacks on minorities and the uh, kind of military equipments they are purchasing from Israel, and kind of, for example, the surveillance equipment, the Pegasus malware was from Israel. So they are also uh, taking Israel's help to suppress the people's resistance within India against their own rule. So that is also one of the reason why this Israeli state continues to exist, and continues to expand its occupation, because even though this last 20 months, the kind of destruction Israel has done in Palestine, that has also led to the decline in its economic system. But because of this uh, arms trade with different countries, including in India, that it still manages to survive. And of course, there is a imperialist military aid also. But this kind of trade uh, with uh, countries like India also is very important for its survival. And so basically, that is also very important to understand. That is the link uh, of India with whatever is happening in Gaza. Basically, that means that uh, we may live thousands of kilometers away, but our government, whatever its policies are there, whatever diplomacy it is doing, is also in a way contributing to this genocide. So we can't just say that it is just the imperialist US that is responsible for this kind of genocide. Even the rulers of our own country are complicit in this, and the kind of relations which they have exist, and that fascists have taken to the newer heights. But even other political parties have not raised their voices much. And in fact, as I told in earlier, it was the Congress Party which was the one which established diplomatic relations with Israel. And even if, let's say, in future Congress Party comes to power, it will continue to have very cordial relation with this settler colonial state of Israel. So basically, the entire ruling class of India is very much in alliance with this imperialist project of Israel. So that is also very important to understand. Without that, we won't be able to uh, understand why it is going on. So basically, when we are talking about understanding whatever going on in Gaza at the racial plane, we need to understand all these factors that are responsible uh, for this kind of genocide to take place, for this kind of humanitarian crisis in which children are dying of hunger and starvation, and Israel is able to attack on the people who gathered for aid, for receiving aid. This kind of inhumanity is possible because of the involvement of these rulers from different parts of the world. And in India, uh, we must hold our own government accountable for this kind of genocide that is taking place. So right now, basically, the uh, Palestine and the uh, Gaza has become a kind of litmus test for any individual living in any part of the world, uh, whether someone has any kind of uh, humanity or any sensitivity, human sensitivity left. Uh, it is a litmus test. If one is really a human being, one must come forward in support of Gaza, in support of Palestine. Uh, and if one really does not support Palestine, and if in any way someone supports Israel or give argument in favor of Israel, this settler colonial project of Israel, or its continued genocide, it is definitely an inhuman act, and no human being, a justice living person, can basically do that. So that way it is Palestine and Gaza in particular. It is acting as a kind of mirror to expose the reality of this imperialist system, the barbarity, the barbaric nature, the barbaric character of this system. It is also acting as a litmus test to basically to know whether some individual has some kind of sensitivity, some kind of justice loving nature or not, because that is the single most important issue in the world today. And that is the reason why we are seeing that so many people in different parts of the world are uh, not just hitting the streets, not just taking part in the protest, they are also trying to go to Gaza to provide aid somehow, despite the fact that there is so much risk involved in that, despite the fact that Israel is attacking on any kinds of humanitarian aid also. There are so many people who are still, as we speak, they are making plans to support people of Israel, to support, sorry, people of Palestine, to support the resistance of Palestinian liberation struggle, and to they are in solidarity with the people of Palestine. So that is the real strength of this resistance, because it is not confined to Gaza, it is not confined to Palestine. Now it has become a kind of global struggle, and it is this uh, global resistance that alone can basically defeat the Zionist Israel and the US imperialist nexus. And that is the reason why we need to understand this issue in this larger context, and accordingly derive the operative part, that what is needed to be done, what we can do in India, sitting thousands of miles away from Gaza, what we can do. Because if we understand these linkages with the imperialist system, this linkage with the ruling classes of different countries in this genocide, then we will be able to hold our own governments accountable. Then we will be able to derive certain demands which logically derive from these linkages. So, of course, we will speak about this particularly in tomorrow's session, Gaza and the working class, that what are the operative parts, basically what we can do in India, and what can be the working class role in this resistance. But whatever we discussed today, that explains that how these things are interlinked, and why it is important to understand this issue in this historical context and its links with this global capitalist imperialist system. So I think with this, uh, the main part of what I had to say, I'll, I'll just check if I have missed some point. Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
Comrade, if you have something to add, you can take 10 more minutes, about 5 to 10 minutes.
okay. Now, basically, whatever points I had to cover, that are broadly covered. I'll just conclude my talk with this thing, that this I'll just reiterate what I said earlier, that it is this kind of uh, settler colonial project right from the beginning has been uh, supported by the imperialist system. Without its support, it could not have come into existence. Uh, the Israeli state could not have come into existence. Without its support, it could not have expanded. It could not have continued to expand. And without its support, it could not have continued to carry out its genocide that it is doing in Gaza. And all these ruling classes of all over the world are complicity in it. And we, as individual living in different parts of the world, we need to take a call that which side we are on, whether we are in the side to the side of the mass murderers, the people who are carrying out the genocide, the people who are making profit at the cost of loss of so many lives, or the people who are fighting for their liberation, the people who continued their resistance despite this conspiracy to annihilate their nation. And we will talk more about the national liberation struggle of Palestinian people tomorrow. But this thing is sure that the national liberation struggle of Palestinian people continues to exist despite this genocide that is going on in Gaza. And that is the main reason why Israel and US is they are frustrated and desperate, and they are continuing to expand this war. And the main reason is that this resistance is still alive, and that is where our hope lies. With this, I'll just conclude, and I think we can discuss in the question and answer session if I have missed any point.
Yeah, yes, comrade. Uh, so, friends, yeah, Comrade Anand, you please take a 2-minute break. I have some announcements, and then we can take questions. Uh, so, friends and comrades, this is the first part of the talk. We will have the second part tomorrow, where issues such as Palestine people's resistance and solidarity movements across the world, especially in India, the role of working class movements, and such things will be discussed. Uh, we request friends to post your questions in this questions information text channel. And those who are following the talk on YouTube and Facebook can send the questions in the concerned comment box. However, the priority will be given to the questions sent in this Discord channel. Uh, and please send questions pertaining to what has been spoken today, because as I said, there are some more issues to be covered tomorrow. Uh, so, and questions, if there are any questions on the topics that the speaker is going to cover tomorrow, speaker has the privilege to reserve the questions for tomorrow. Uh, we are running a YouTube channel where all the earlier talks are available. So comrades can subscribe to our YouTube channel and access the earlier recordings of the earlier talks. And the details of the Vedika talks can be accessed on our pages on social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We are posting the links here, and you can, yeah, the links are posted here. You can follow our social media handles. And similarly, we are running 2 WhatsApp groups to share the details of the talks and also to share the resource materials shared by the speakers. The links for the WhatsApp group are posted here. And those who have not yet joined the WhatsApp group can join it. These groups are admins only groups. We only share the information related to the Vedika talks. And there is also an open forum. You can see this open forum. Sorry, this is the title is in Telugu. So when the session is not in progress, members are encouraged to initiate or take part in the discussions on various issues related to Marxism uh, in this open forum. So, Comrade Anand, if you are ready, we can start taking the questions.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, the first one is from Tejaswi. She's asking, are the sale of military products and the capitalist system behind, uh, are the sale of military products and the capitalist system behind them playing a key role in fueling Israel-Iran war?
Yeah, definitely the sale of military products and this advanced weaponry, the military hardware and software, all these are very important in this entire process. There is a entire lobby. There is a military industrial complex in all imperialist countries in Israel, in all the countries, in fact, uh, that it basically exists so that there is more and more war, and they make more and more profit. So if suppose there is no war, suppose there is peace, then uh, how will these companies earn profit? So definitely that is an important part. Uh, but at the same time, we must also understand that it is not just because there is a direct profit of these military and defense companies that they are making. This overall settler colonial project, uh, the existence of this settler colonial project of Israel, that itself is the main reason behind the war. Because even when these weapons are not bought and sold, there are many other commodities, especially, for example, in the Middle East region, the hydrocarbon resources that are needed for any capitalist economy to survive. And there is rivalry among different imperialist power to uh, gain more and more share of these resources. So that also needs to be understood, because there is a tendency to understand these conflicts only from a military standpoint. That also is a very narrow perspective to understand. That is just one aspect of it. Apart from that, uh, the inter-imperialist rivalry to obtain all kinds of natural resources, to get more and more market for selling their products, to get uh, cheap labor power. And that's the reason why they try to establish their hegemony. They try to ensure that there is some friendly government which is in power, there is a friendly regime. So all these are the reason why these conflicts take place. Because, for example, in Iran, uh, there is a regime which is antagonistic to US interest, and that is the reason why there is always some kind of tension between US and Israel, as I explained. Uh, as I mentioned in my talk also, in 1979, there was before 1979, there was a pro-US regime there, Shah regime over there, and which was toppled. And now this new kind, after 79, this kind of theocratic system of Ayatollah exists there. And that is itself conservative and reactionary. But when it comes to resisting US imperialism, it has been consistent. And that especially because of its alliance with Russia and China axis, it has been able to do that. So that also is in a way linked with the inter-imperialist rivalry, whatever is going on in Iran also. So I think we must also look in this larger context, apart from this direct link with the sale of military products.
Okay, comrade. Now there is a question from Sastri PP. Uh, is there any relation between the recent Iran-Israel conflict and Gaza-Israel issue?
Yeah, definitely there is a link. And that, at one level, that link, even Israel claims that uh, Iran has been supporting Hamas and Hezbollah. Uh, so that is the stated link, but there is more to it. It's not just that, as I explained in the previous answer, that there is a kind of rivalry that is going on in that entire Middle East region to establish the hegemony of different imperialist power, and that is also that is the in fact main reason why this war is expanding, not just in Iran but in Syria, in Yemen. If you see there are two imperialist axes which are trying to uh, establish their dominance in that entire region. So there is definitely that is the main link, and there are some there are some countries which are more aligned to the U.S. imperialist axis, U.S. imperialist led axis, and there are some regimes which are more aligned to the Russian Chinese axis, and that's what is leading to the expansion of this war, basically.
Okay. There is a question from Bobby. The German fascists spoke of wiping out a race and a country from the map of the world. Israel is also showing a similar tendency now. When Germany's fangs moved towards socialist Soviet Russia, it not only saved itself, but also saved the world from the fascist feet. It was certainly not a magic, but the sacrifice of 20 million Soviet lives. Who can play such a role today? Can the current socialist countries and countries with Communist Party governments play that role?
Uh, First of all, I don't think there are any socialist countries today. They are namesake socialist country. For example, China claims to be a communist country, but as I mentioned in my talk also, that it is an imperialist power now. Not like forget about socialist country. It is an imperialist power, and it is part of this rivalry to uh, get more and more control of the resources of the world, not for the benefit of the working class, but for the benefit of uh, on the ruling classes of China, which consist of different kinds of people, which not just the private companies, but also the members of the communist parties who are part of that. So, uh, so that way, uh, I do not see any hope from these namesake socialist countries. But definitely, as you rightly mentioned, that it is the working class that was responsible for defeating uh, Hitler and getting rid of this fascist monster. Even now, when we are talking about the fight against imperialism, we believe that the working class alone can lead that struggle. Of course, it has to form alliances with other classes of the society, but the leadership will be with the working class, and the working class of the world uh, will lead that struggle, and only in that manner this imperialist system can be eliminated. And even now, I think more particularly we can talk in tomorrow's session, because that is also related to this, that what is the role of working class with respect to Gaza. So yeah, we'll speak more about that tomorrow.
Yeah, comrade. Some of the members are typing questions, so we hope we get some questions. And in the meanwhile, uh, how can we see, or how should we see, a narrative among some of our Indians or some of our people around us, saying that what Israel is doing is a self-defense against Hamas terrorist attacks. The aggression on Gaza should be seen as a self-defense. So how should we see this?
So basically, for that, uh, we need to understand what is the history of this conflict. So the history did not start on October 7. So basically, those who talk about, who buy this argument of self-defense, they they do not have a sense of history, because if they had, they would know that this conflict dates back to decades ago, and the very existence of Israel in 1948 was possible because the Palestinian people were displaced from their land. They were forced, many of them were massacred, many of them, lakhs of them, were made refugees, and they are living in different parts of the Arab world and different parts of the world. So, uh, so basically, that history we need to understand, that how it started, and the Palestinian people were living there for centuries, and they had the flourishing civilization. It is the Zionists who came from outside, who uh, plundered their land, who massacred them, and they continue to do even after 1948. And that kind of what Palestinian call as Nakba, the catastrophe, that became an ongoing process. It never stopped. So in 1967, Six-Day War, they Israel occupied West Bank, Gaza, Sinai Peninsula, Golan Heights, and all. So basically, that occupation is expanding. So against this occupation of their land, against this settler colonial control of their nation, the Palestinian people are resisting, and they are leading a war of national liberation. So if we are saying that Israel isn't doing self-defense, then we'll have to uh, we'll have to then believe that Britain, the British colonial powers, when they were taking actions against the revolutionaries like Bhagat Singh, Chandrasekhar Azad, they were doing that in their self-defense, because they were also fighting for their national liberation, and the colonial powers were basically crushing that resistance. That is precisely what Israel is doing. So, as British colonial powers in India were not acting in their self-defense, Israel is also not acting in their self-defense. The violence of Israel is meant to suppress, to occupy, to expand their occupation, and the whatever violence we see from the resistance side, it is the violence of the uh, liberation war of Palestinian people that must be equated not uh, with any kind of terrorist acts, because if we are terming that kind of violence as terrorism, we'll have to accept that uh, even our revolutionaries were terrorists, and they they were engaged in these kind of terrorist acts. So basically, it is not a self-defense. It is just a reactionary violence in order to perpetuate an unjust rule.
Yeah, comrade. Sujan is asking, you spoke about normalization of relations between India and Israel during PV Narasimha Rao's time. Can this normalization somehow be seen as related to the neoliberal reforms that PV's regime oversaw?
Yeah, definitely. That there is definitely a link. In fact, there was a kind of paradigm shift after that, and that the underlying reason was this new kind of economic policies, uh, when the ruling classes of India now decided to openly uh, call themselves as capitalists, because before that there was this kind of overall veneer of some kind of socialism, Nehruvian socialism. In reality, that was not socialism. That was also a model of capitalism, a public sector model of capitalism. But with this new liberal era, now openly they came out, and according to that, this new liberal era has its own ideology, its own value system, its own pragmatism, its own kind of uh, explanation of national interest, so-called national interest. So, uh, and that also we need to understand that that was precisely the time when this Cold War had was coming to an end, and uh, basically the other rival of US imperialists, the Soviet Union, ceased to exist. So that also was one of the reason why now India, if you see the foreign policy, the history of foreign policy of India, there was increasing tilt towards US, and also that was the time when there was increasing bonhomie between the US, between the Indian ruling classes and Israeli ruling class, and that was when the normal formal diplomatic relations were established. It's not that before that there was no link with Israel. Informally, there are many kinds of uh, backdoor channel that was happening even earlier, but uh, they could not openly support. The way they were not able to openly call that it is good to make profit, it is good to have to earn more and more money. Similarly, they were not having the courage earlier to claim that it is good to have a diplomatic relation with settler colonial uh, state. But now after this new neoliberal era, that ideology also has become more pragmatic, that whatever serves our interest means the interest of the ruling classes of India, and basically now they don't have any shame in accepting that, basically.
Okay. Amulya is asking, what role do neighboring countries such as Egypt play in mediating the conflict?
They, I think, they claim to be mediating the conflict, but they are in fact part of the conflict now. uh, there was a time when uh, the Egypt and their leaders were really doing something about uh, Palestinian cause. But in last 4 or 5 decades, they have betrayed the cause of Palestinian people. And recently, also, if you see, there was this great march to Egypt. People, activists from different parts of the world went to Egypt. They planned to assemble in Egypt, but they were brutally repressed, and that global march could not happen. So basically, uh, it is in no way helping the cause of Palestinian people. In fact, in the name of mediation and all, it is trying to somehow normalize the state of Israel. And we don't expect anything from the rulers of Egypt, but certainly the people of Egypt continue to have solidarity with the Palestinian people. And just as the people of Egypt ensured that the authoritarian regime of Hosni Mubarak fell in 2011 and Arab Spring spread. Similarly, in future, we might hope that the people of Egypt will also uh, rise in support of Palestinian people, and they are already doing that. But they'll be definitely instrumental in what I was talking, the spread of people's uprising across the Arab world.
Okay, got it. Tejashvi is asking, what role does religion play as a tool of the ideological superstructure in maintaining divisions that blur shared class interests in the context of Gaza?
Oh, definitely. Religion does play as that, as you rightly mentioned, that ideological superstructure. Because even though in reality we know that it is the material interest that is the main reason, and it is not a religious war, but to the people of Israel, they have to convince that why this kind of mass murder, this kind of killing of babies is necessary. For that, they need some kind of ideology to justify that. That ideology is Zionism, and Zionism is based on the material interest of the ruling classes of Israel and of imperialist power. But when it tries to convince the people of Israel, it also presents this in the ideological form, in the form of religion and theology, and that uh, through some kind of prophecies and all. So, for example, these illegal settlers uh, who are settling in uh, West Bank, so they build a movement, basically making use of religion, that it is our right, and that right is derived from that religious source. Of course, they don't have any right to claim as per the international law or as per the any modern day constitution or laws, but they derive that legitimacy from religion only, and they try to convince them that it is our divine right to expand our occupation, to carry out these kinds of inhuman acts. So basically, that is an important role, important tool the religion does play. But at the same time, we must try to explain the people that religion is used as a tool, but it is not the religious conflict, in the sense that uh, it is the material interest of the ruling classes that is at the heart of that issue, and religion is just used as a tool. And just as in India, we can understand with Indian context that when Hindutva fascists, they use the tool of Hinduism, the religion of Hinduism, that doesn't mean that it is in the interest of all Hindus. It is the interest of the ruling classes of India, but that religion is used to spread hatred, to justify the inhuman acts, basically. So, and in case of Israel, since there is no justification for the existence of Israel, they have to use this kind of ideological tool.
Okay, Kapil. Uh, there is a question from Arun. Is there any relation between the Russia-Ukraine war and Israel genocide on Palestine?
There is no direct link. The only link which we can see is that both are the reflection and manifestation of the inter-imperialist rivalry in a very different way. Because in Russia and Ukraine war, it is the basically it is openly visible that uh, there is a conflict which is the outcome of the uh, the kind of competition between the Western imperialist countries and Russian imperialism, and that that's if we talk about their origin, that has its link with the post Soviet Union collapse and how NATO has been expanding eastward, and in response to that, Russian uh, ruling classes, when it became powerful, they decided to basically launch attack to capture the territories and natural resources. So that is an out directly can be seen that as an outcome of this inter-imperialist rivalry. Whatever is going on in Palestine, the genocide in Gaza, uh, there it doesn't openly look like a direct outcome of these inter-imperialist rivalry, because Russia or China is not directly involved there. But as we discussed, it is definitely that in part of that entire Middle East region, and there is a rivalry going on in that region between these two imperialist axes, and that also in some way is related to that, is somehow linked with that. But of course, it has its own particularities, its own history that needs to be studied.
Yeah, Arun is asking another question. Are there any progressive organizations in Israel that support Palestine?
I mean, openly support the right of self-determination of Palestine. That I'm not very sure. But there are many organizations who oppose this kind of genocide that is going on, because basically the even many leftists in Israel, they have been supporting this Zionist project, because that's how they will be able to legitimize their uh, existence, their survival. And many of them have basically not questioned the very existence of Israel, but they do talk about some kind of rights to Palestinian people. They talk about they are against this kind of genocide or open mass murder, but in some way they also support this kind of colonial settler project. I'm not very sure about any organization that openly supports the right to self-determination of Palestine. Uh, yeah, but there are different types of left, liberal left, who are critical of Israeli genocide, basically.
Bobby is asking, can we say that the media played its part in bringing the anarchy in Gaza to the attention of the world?
I think when we are talking about media, we have to talk about what kind of media. Of course, the Western imperialist media try to downplay that, and it continues to downplay. And if it was left with that imperialist media, we would not have come to know about whatever we know so far. So it is mainly that also is part of the resistance of Palestinian people, that they have globalized their resistance, and media is very important part of that, to spread their uh, the reality of Gaza, and the kind of videos that they have been capturing, the kind of uh, stories they have been sharing, that their effort, and that also, as I told, is part of the resistance of Palestinian people. If we see, even before this genocide, they have used it very creatively. They have used mobile phones, they have used cameras to basically portray their struggle and their resistance. So it is because of that primarily that to whatever extent it has been brought to the notice of the world. Even now, I do not think that a large section of people of the world know about whatever is going, because the mainstream media is not playing that role. Even in India, for example, if you see, it is not the mainstream media that has been showing the reality of whatever is happening in Gaza. It is through some independent media platform. It is through social media that people are coming to know, to whatever extent they are coming to know. And there is a need to spread it further, because uh, it is still not many people in India also know about what is the reality of Gaza.
Nivas is asking, October 7 and the events that have since followed have created a situation where the largest Jewish inhabited city in the world, has elected a Muslim mayor who is pro-Palestine, in quotes, in the liberal sense of the term. I think he is referring to New York. While this indicates the increased shift towards anti-imperialism and an overall pro-Palestinian sentiment, should we take all these developments with a pinch of salt?
Yeah, so basically, we must take notice of these events, and it is also true that we must not over glorify these kinds of developments, because it is not just because of the pro-Palestine stand. Some developments are happening in New York. It is also mainly because of whatever is the internal contradictions of US society. So that must not be overestimated, whatever is happening there. And at the same time, there is definitely some link, and that must be established, that for example, the students protest in US uh, since last year, the encampment movement, and even after the arrival of Trump, the students and youth in US have been resisting, and that also is linked with this global solidarity movement. So all this definitely is one factor, but yeah, we must not overestimate that. Also, it's because of the pro-Palestine stand only, was like he's elected.
Yeah, that's all, Comrade Anand. We have answered all the questions. Uh, so, as summarizing today's talk and as a curtain raiser for tomorrow's talk, can you place some remarks?
Okay, so basically, to just summarize whatever we discussed today, uh, we need to understand this larger, this whatever is going on in Gaza in the form of genocide and killing of babies, uh, in the that larger context and larger historical context, and in the context of the imperialist world in which we are living in. And Middle East region is at the heart of the contradictions of this imperialist system. And historically also, we discussed that how the very origin of Israel is was possible because of the imperialist support. Of course, British imperialists were supporting because of their own material interest. And after the Second World War, US imperialism is also supporting because it serves their own material interest. So basically, uh, now there is a change in the equations of imperialism, in which there is a decline in the hegemony of US imperialism, and there is a new axis which has emerged in last couple of decades in the form of Russian and Chinese axis. And there is an inter-imperialist rivalry that is going on between these two imperialist axes, that is also kind of exacerbating the conflicts in that region. And in this uh, genocide that is going on, uh, it's not just the imperialist Western US imperialist. Even the ruling classes all over the world, of the Arab world, of countries like India, they are complicit. And without their complicity, this kind of genocide could not have taken place. So basically, even the institutions like UN and all, also, they are kind of defunct. They are not able to do that. It is precisely because these rulers have not done anything uh, to basically, even at the formal level, they might still support Palestine and the right of Palestinian state to exist. They have not done enough to basically stop this kind of genocide. So uh, finally, I would like to just say that this is imperialist system that is the main reason of this kind of inhuman acts, which is very difficult to even fathom, and what is going on. The it is the product of this imperialist system, and the imperialist system has this to offer. It doesn't have anything positive or progressive to offer to humanity. It can only offer war. It can offer genocide. It can just offer nuclear warfare, ecological crisis, and it's high time we think about overthrowing this imperialist system and think about an alternative society. And we'll talk more about that in tomorrow's session. That what role the working class, especially in India, what working class and those who support uh, Gaza, who support the struggle of Palestine, what they can do to strengthen the liberation struggle of Palestinian people, which is far from war, which continues to exist, which continues to challenge the mightiest power of the world. So, what we can do individually and collectively, that's what we are going to discuss tomorrow. So, I think with this, I welcome all of you to join tomorrow's session also.
Yeah, thank you, Comrade Anand, for your very clear and very informative talk on Gaza and the world. So, friends and comrades, we listen to Comrade Anand. And tomorrow at 8 p.m., we will meet here again for a talk by Comrade Anand again on Gaza and the working class. So, till then, let us keep raising our voice against imperialism and in solidarity with Palestine. Good night, comrades. You can exit from the voice channel by clicking on the red receiver button here.